Hi, I'm Dr. Sam Ertl from Living Well Chiropractic, and this is Better Results Faster. This is your key to looking, feeling, and healing your best. Now, if you're watching this video, it's likely that you've recently begun chiropractic care with me, and I'm going to share some things with you that are going to help you get the best results possible out of your care. I am a chiropractor, of course, and a health and wellness expert. And I practice what I'm going to be preaching to you today. I want to share a little bit about me. When I was young, I did not know anything about chiropractic care. My parents were none the wiser, and their first reaction was to take me to medical doctors when I had any issues with my health, and I had a lot of them. Like a lot of people I know, I struggled with allergies. I had ADHD. I had asthma. Every winter I would come down with severe bronchial infections, bronchitis, and it's just going around is what you would hear. But the question remained, why would I get so sick and my brother didn't necessarily get as sick as I do? Why wasn't he sitting around sucking on a nebulizer and an inhaler? Why was it that I had these certain issues? I was subject to chronic colds and flus and that sort of thing. And my parents were never able to question, well, maybe it was the food. Maybe it's his nerve system that's not functioning on all cylinders. Maybe we should take him to a chiropractor. That never crossed their minds until I was in my early 20s and hurt my back in sports and working in a landscaping environment. And I had heard chiropractors could help with back pain, and the medicine that the medical doctors gave me wasn't cutting it. So I had to do something different. And I went to a chiropractor for the first time, and what I discovered blew my mind. It not only helped me with my severe sciatic and back pain and upper back pain and shoulder injuries, but it also helped me overcome my asthma and the chronic infections and the allergies, and helped me tremendously with the attention deficit and a lot of other things. So buckle up. I got some awesome information that is going to change your life. So get ready. Before we dive into all that, I'd like to take just a moment and discuss a word, if you will. Occasionally, I like to look at a word and what it means and why we say it and what it's historically meant. And that word I'd like to dive into is health. And so what does health mean? And it's really interesting when you look at the origins of this word. It actually is very similar to the word help. It is the same root word in Old English, and it means a sense of, or rather a state of wholeness, a state of well-being. It's very similar and akin to holy and sacred. It means made whole. And so if you are not healthy, it means that you are unwhole, and it means that you are broken, and that is no way to live. And you're going to find that chiropractic care holds the keys to breaking your body and putting Humpty Dumpty back together again in way more ways than you can imagine. So first thing is, I have a question for you, and it is, are Americans healthy? I think we've got a lot of wonderful things going on in our country in terms of the technology. We've got running water, we've got plumbing, we've got electricity and air conditioning, and a lot of things that we can be very thankful for. We've got great access to a lot of food, but at the end of the day, if you look at our results, I think it might surprise you. So the question is, are we healthy? It's a good question. I would suggest we are not as healthy as you think we might be. We may be leading the world in a lot of things, but health is not one of them. And check out this chart right here. This really says a lot. On the bottom axis here, you'll see the amount of dollars spent in healthcare per person in that country. So we can compare to countries that don't have as many people in them as we do if we look at how much they're spending per person. And on the side here, you see the amount of years that people are living. So the red line down towards the bottom there is the United States, and all the other lines represent different countries. And you'll see that countries like Japan, South Korea, Germany, Spain, Italy, France, on and on, all of these different countries are spending a fraction of what we're spending on our healthcare, and they're living longer lives. And you're also going to see that they're living better quality lives. And you have to understand that even though, we have this wonderful free market economy where it's a capitalist society, we don't shell out half of our income to taxes to pay for socialized healthcare, but even still, these other countries are doing a better job at keeping their people healthy. And it's not because of the government structure, it's because of what we're choosing to put into our bodies and how we're choosing to take care of them. So next question I have for you is, which country in the world takes the most medicine? If you look at our results, we're living shorter lives, we're spending more on our healthcare. Maybe it's possible that other countries have better access to pharmaceutical drugs. Is that true? Well, I hate to tell you, it's not. In the United States, we consume about 40% of the pharmaceutical drugs. So we represent about 4.25% of the world population. There's 9 billion people out there. We're about less than 5% of that. And yet we consume at least 40% of the world's pharmaceutical drugs. Now, that's from Harvard University, and other studies have indicated that it may be as high as 70 to 80% of of the pharmaceutical drugs in the world are consumed right here in the United States. So next question I have is, what percent of these medications that people are taking actually cure a disease? I think you'll be surprised to find out that number is a big fat zero. None of the drugs are curing diseases. They're only treating symptoms. And you might think, cholesterol medications, blood pressure medications, asthma, heartburn, you name it, any of these medications, even mental health drugs, which isn't a bad thing altogether. It's just that, are we treating the cause or are we treating the symptoms? I believe it was Henry David Thoreau that said that 1,000 hacking at the leaves of change is for every 1,000 hacking at the leaves of change, there's one striking at the root. And I suggest that if we were able to strike at the root of the healthcare issues, you will live a healthier life and you will have a better time doing it. So you might even be thinking about antibiotics right now, because that's an important one to consider. They're not a bad thing at all. It's that they're overused and they don't cure anything necessarily. There's times when they're important to have on hand, but if there's a cold bug or a flu bug or strep throat or whatever it might be circulating in the community, are people getting sick because they're exposed to the bug, or are they getting sick because they can't fight it off on their own? And then the bug takes over and then you need the stronger medication to wipe it out. How come the person standing next to me might get strep throat, but I don't? Is it because the bug didn't hop over there, or was it more about my body being able to fight it off? I think that's the right answer. This next chart shows the rates of chronic disease. So chronic disease are diseases that don't go away. They're diseases that don't necessarily have a known cure. And on the books, they don't have a known cure. Asthma, allergies, autoimmune diseases, ADHD, autism, that's just the A's, obesity, you name it, osteoarthritis. There's a lot of conditions that are considered chronic that we don't, on the books, have a cure for. And that has changed over time. 100 years ago or so, how much better is our technology? But 100 years ago, only 7 in 10 people, 7 out of 100, had chronic diseases. Now it's 6 out of 10, 60% versus 7% 100 years ago. And some people, when I say that, will think, oh, well, maybe it's the diagnostic abilities. Maybe we can identify these things better now. And unfortunately, that is not the case. We've been able to identify a lot of these disease processes for a long time. It's just that more people have them than have ever had them before. And that rate is accelerating. It's getting faster. There's more people getting sick now and staying sick than there ever used to be. And of that 60% of the people that have chronic diseases, 75% of them have multiple chronic diseases. So it's something we need to do something about now, or the future of our own lives and our next generations is very much in jeopardy. So, question, where does the United States fall in comparison to other countries? If you were to take, there's 200 or so, give or take a few countries in the world, out of all the first world countries, the most well-developed, so let's say the top 40 countries in the world, where would you suppose America falls on that list? Would you be upset if we were the 10th healthiest country in the world? What about the 20th or the 30th? How would you feel if we were one of the lowest ranking countries? Well, we are. We are anywhere from 36 to 38 on that list any given year. We are at the bottom of the barrel. We are just about the sickest country in the developed world because of the way we're choosing to treat health. And that is something that you can take control of and you can do a better job with in your own life without having to go to school and be a doctor. And, you don't have to learn a whole lot to do some basic things correct. The bottom line here is this is about you. This is not about politics or worldview. This is about you living and feeling and looking your best. And this is about your children. This is about your family. And let's talk about the kids for a second, because the kids these days this is an important fact here. As of the year 2000, children born after the year 2000 are expected to live the shortest, lowest quality of lives of any humans on record. People that were born before that, a lot of us didn't grow up when we were younger with so much processed food and toxic exposure in the environment and from the pharmaceuticals, and they played outside a lot more. And nowadays, kids are inside, they're on screens a lot more, and they're exposed to way more dietary toxins, way more pharmaceuticals, way more vaccines. And not that vaccines are a bad thing necessarily, it's just that they haven't been tested for long-term safety. They just haven't. I hate to tell you, but they don't test that. And they should. I don't want to be a guinea pig. I hope you don't either. So if you keep doing what you've been doing, and if we keep doing that, and if we keep thinking it's okay, we're going to keep getting the same results and worse. So it's time to take a stand, and it's time to do things differently. So if you are experiencing symptoms of different chronic diseases or pain in your body, neck pain, back pain, carpal tunnel, sciatica, headaches, those types of things, or digestive problems or autoimmune conditions, those symptoms are signals from your body, or what I like to call body signals. And the worst thing you could possibly do for a smoke detector, for example, right, the alarm, is pull the batteries out. If that beeping wakes you up, don't go down the hall and yank out the 9-volt. You might want to look at why it's going off in the first place. And if your body is telling you that there's something wrong, you should pay attention. So the next question I have for you is, with all of these chronic issues going on, is it possible to know the real cause of disease and human ill health? And I'm really excited to tell you that the answer to that is yes, it is possible. This is not rocket science. It's something that we understand very well and have been treating successfully in the chiropractic space and natural healing space for a long time. And I think that you'll find the problem that we've engaged in is really similar to this picture. I love this little cartoon because it illustrates exactly what we're doing. It's kind of like that, not seeing the forest for the trees. This is called the parable of the 7 blind men and the elephant. And, imagine there's an elephant and 7 blind men walk up to it, and they all get to a different part of the element, and one of them feels the side, and he says, "Oh, it's a big furry wall." And the elephants have hairs on them, not furry, but the guy in the back goes to the tail, and he pulls on the tail. "Oh, it's a big rope." And the guy that finds the tusks says, "Oh, it's a spear." And the guy that finds the trunk says, "Oh, it's a giant hose." And none of them can see, because they're not looking at it right, that it's an elephant. And that's kind of where we're at. We're way too up close looking at health. We need to take a big step back and look at things a little bit differently. So believe it or not, The real cause of disease is what we call a subluxation. And a subluxation is a fancy word that's used to describe what happens when joints in the spine become misaligned and create stress, pressure, and irritation from inflammation and nerve stress on the spinal cord and on the nerve roots themselves. And that's what chiropractors correct. And we're most well known for helping people with back and neck pain, but we're also able to help people with other health issues by starting with turning on their nerve system by adjusting and correcting these subluxations. So what is a subluxation? It's more or less a concussion to the spinal cord. It's the same physiologic process as a concussion. Many of you have heard of the NFL's research on concussion and post-concussion syndrome. Basically what happens is the brain gets injured from an impact. It creates a bruised spot, like a bruised peach or an apple, and then that spot doesn't conduct electricity anymore and the body can't function correctly. That is exactly what happens in the spinal cord and spinal nerve roots when subluxations persist. They can be created from a slip or a fall. They can be created from stress, a lot of different things. But the bottom line is they damage the spinal cord and the nerves and disrupt the body's function. And that sets off the alarm bells like pain. And I mentioned that research from the NFL. Guess who did that research and discovered post-concussion syndrome? It was chiropractors. And chiropractors have been preaching this message for a long time, about 128 years. If there's anything that's traditional in healthcare, it's that, not other healthcare practices that change every other day. So when a subluxation takes place, the joints shift out of alignment and they get stuck like that, and they get glued together. And that causes chronic degenerative arthritic damage, kind of like dry rot with old rubber or old leather. And it degenerates the spinal tissue, nerves, discs, and muscles, and causes a progressive loss of function and health. It causes joint fixation, it causes muscle spasms, it causes inflammation, which is chemical swelling, chemical fluid buildup, which causes irritation to nerves and discs, and it causes a stress response. If your body is under stress, it shifts you into fight or flight, and which is also called fight, flight, or freeze, which is technically known as hypersympathetic atonia. I won't ask you to spell that, but it shifts you into a fight or flight state, and your body is unable to heal itself because you're stuck like that. So the human body has a master system. Just like your phone, anything electronic has circuits that flow through it that control it, so do you. You have a nerve system that runs all of the systems in your body. It performs about 1,000 trillion functions per nerve cell per second. And it oversees the function of 37 trillion cells in your body. And it's what we call the miracle of life. It's an electric power that flows through our circuits that scientists don't have a clue where it comes from. You might ask a pastor where it comes from. They'll probably give you a better idea. But that's besides the point. The point is that this electric power flows through you, and when it turns off, you turn back into dirt. It's the power that runs your body. That's why if somebody goes into cardiac arrest, they shock them with those pads to get the power back online. So the way that all works is like this chart here shows. This is called a Merrick chart. Every organ, every tissue, every cell in your body is connected to the one under your hat by nerves. Nerves are your electrical wires. They go physically from the spinal column to the brain, and then from the spinal column out to the body. And they control every system in the body. And when there is disruption to those nerves, you'll see any host of symptoms that start to show up because of the breakdown. So life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask, right? So here's 3 questions that you have to ask if you want to be healthy. The first is, are your lifestyle choices and your healthcare choices helping or hurting your nerve system? Because the nerve system is primary. Are you taking good care of yours or not? Now take a look at these 2 people. Which one of them do you think is having the most fun in their life? This guy or this gal? Now, I'd be willing to bet that the guy is making some choices that the gal would not want to make, just based on appearances here. And, the point is, though, that your health is not an issue of doing things that are horrible versus doing things that make you happy. It's not about avoiding pleasure. It's about making wise choices. It's about being mindful of what you're doing. You have to pay attention. Life is going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. And you can choose the old hard easy or the easy hard. You can do the hard thing up front and have a better result and a better time doing it. Or you can take what appears to be the easy road and then have things turn out much harder later on. So question number 2, is your body smart or stupid? I think that if you take common popular wisdom, it will probably tell you that your body is stupid, right? Doesn't this sound like what the TV's been telling us? But the truth is your body is extremely smart. The DNA in your body is programmed for health, not for sickness. In fact, we all have the DNA for health and sickness in our bodies. And it's been proven, this is a field of study called epigenetics. It's been proven that your lifestyle choices turn on or turn off different genes. So if you make healthy choices, you turn on the healthy genes. If you make poor lifestyle choices, you turn on the genes for sickness and disease. And furthermore, for all of you who haven't had kids yet or plan to, if, say, you don't take good care of your body and you're turning on the genes that are programmed for poor health, your children are going to get copies of the bad genes. They're going to get a worse copy of your DNA than whether if you had made better health choices and you were expressing, it's called genetic expression. If you were expressing the healthy genes, then your kids would get copies of those genes instead. So your lifestyle choices really matter. Your health is not a product of bad luck, bad germs, or bad genes. It's absolutely what you make it. There's a lot to be said about, good genes and, not being exposed to certain illnesses and whatnot. But the main thing that you have control over is your body's health and vitality. So question number 3, what causes subluxation? I hinted at this earlier. Subluxation is caused by the 3 T's. This is what the old-timer chiropractors passed on to us: thoughts, traumas, and toxins. Mental stress is a cause of your thoughts, right? Thoughts can shift your body into fight or flight. So there's social stresses, there's psychological stresses, there's emotional stressors, and those are things that we can all do well to maintain. There's a lot to be said for having a good counselor or a good pastor, or reading books about how to have a healthy thought life or prayer life or spiritual life. Those things are all really important. Choosing your friends wisely is important. Those are things that we ought to be mindful of. And if we are stressed, that can shift us out of whack. Haven't you ever heard somebody say, don't get all bent out of shape? Where do you think that term came from? If you're stressed, that will shift you out of alignment. Physical stress, that can come in packages great and small. Injuries, macro traumas, a car accident, a fall down the stairs, a sports injury. Those things can cause subluxations in your body, but so can the little injuries, the micro traumas that add up daily. Everything from poor posture to bad habits of movement, sitting too long, working out wrong or not working out, not stretching. Those are all things that can contribute to subluxation complex. And then there's chemical stresses. What's in your food? Do you eat GMO free? Do you eat organic food? Or do you eat the standard American diet, the SAD diet? That can subluxate you too, believe it or not. So the 3-legged stool is a concept I want to introduce to you next. The reason I like the 3-legged stool is because if you only have 2 legs that are the right length and one of them that's short, you're going to tip over, right? So a 3-legged stool is a solid philosophical concept that you should employ here. You want to have these 3 things balanced correctly. So these are your 3 keys to success as a chiropractic patient. The first one, which I bet you're already doing correctly because you're watching this video, is chiropractic adjustments in rhythm. Corrective adjustments in a sequence. Each one builds on the other. A lot of times we'll want to do more up front and then space them out as we go on. But getting the process of healing started with chiropractic adjustments in rhythm is critical. The next is breaking your bad habits. There's a lot to be said there. There's a whole lifetime of choices and mindfulness to employ there. Everything from how you sit, how you stand, how you exercise, how you think, all those things. You want to break those bad habits and make it your point to build better ones. And then the third thing is building proper posture through corrective exercises and being mindful of your posture. So, final question for you that I have today is, how would you know if you have subluxation? This is really important when you're sharing chiropractic with people that you know. Maybe there's someone that you want to send into my office. How would you know if you have subluxation? Is it pain? It's a good indicator, but you could have subluxation and not have pain yet. Kind of like you can have a cavity in your tooth and not have pain yet. It'll come later. But it's important. How do you know you have a subluxation and not a legitimate medical emergency? And the answer to that is only a doctor of chiropractic can tell. Unfortunately, medical doctors do not have training in chiropractic care. They primarily get pathology. They get a little bit of physiology. Chiropractors get about 3 times more physiology training in their schooling than medical doctors. And only a doctor of chiropractic can tell if you have subluxation. So if you're sharing chiropractic with someone, you can just say, have my chiropractor check you, and I'd be happy to do that. So how are subluxations detected? Well, the way that I'm trained is a very traditional method of chiropractic called the Gonstead technique, and we use the scientific method. We take criteria from 5 different categories, and we study the person to figure out if that's the case. So we'll use X-ray analysis. I employ full spine digital X-ray so I can see every joint in the body. We use instrumentation called a nervoscope or an Insight subluxation station where we can scan the spine for nerve irritation. We'll do palpation. We can feel for muscle spasms, swelling, joint restriction, and we can feel those things. We can watch how the body moves, visualization, how the person walks, how their posture is oriented. And then also, of course, asking our patients, what are you experiencing? What are you feeling? So how are subluxations corrected? There's an old saying in chiropractic that is, chiropractic is specific or it is nothing. And unfortunately, that is all too common in the chiropractic profession. So make sure you've got a skilled one. And you're with me, you do. I work really hard at this. But it's not just a matter of willy-nilly racking and cracking. We need to, like a Rubik's Cube, unwind the spine and get it bent back into shape in a specific manner. So I want to share with you a couple of my patients who have had incredible results here. And this is Ryan. Ryan came to see me when he was in his mid-20s. And this is a picture of him getting installed as an officer in the United States military. And he had recently severely injured his back. He had a herniated disc and was having a lot of problem. And he wasn't going to be able to do his officer training school. And you can see here is his MRI. And here you see bulging discs, the light or the kind of the disc. You can see the disc in between the vertebrae, and it's bulging into the spinal cord, which is that white cord that goes down through there, and it's bulging out into the spinal cord. And you can see that those bulges are a darker color, which means they're dried up, they're dehydrated and brittle. And 14 months of chiropractic care later, Ryan had complete remission of his disc herniations and had experienced incredible healing. And then he got to finish his training school, and he's doing awesome now. He's a regular CrossFitter. My next case here is Shirley. Shirley is in her early 90s, and she's very active, and she's been a long-time chiropractic patient with me. You can see on her shirt there, it says, "Gardening is calling and I will go." And she stays very active. She quilts, and her younger quilting friends will talk about how she can just work circles around them. And it's because she gets regular weekly chiropractic adjustments. And she has occasional bouts of upper back pain because she leans over and does stitching like that. And I can get her worked through those issues, and she does awesome. So chiropractic is good for the young and old. And here is another patient of mine. This is my daughter, Nellie. When she was 4, she nearly broke her neck. She was at her mom's house, and mom left the zipper on the trampoline open, and Nellie fell out, landed on her head, and had to go to the hospital in an ambulance. Thank God her collarbone, and not her neck. But nonetheless, she had a lot of damage to her neck, and I adjusted her to help her get through the initial injuries, of course, after the collarbone had healed, but she had done a lot of damage to her upper back and neck, and it was causing headaches. And I have to keep good track of her, make sure she stays well adjusted. I check my kids once or twice a month for reference. And if I neglect to adjust my daughter, she'll get headaches and she'll get sick easily. But if I keep her well adjusted, she does way better. And she wants to be a veterinary chiropractor when she grows up. Hashtag the animal cracker. Look that guy up on YouTube. Hilarious. Really neat stuff. So what I'd like to leave you with is something really, really super important. This message of health needs to get out there. I cannot wait to help you reach your goals and everyone you know. I want you to send me your friends and family that are broken and in ill health, and let me help them. They're going to want to know, oh, does he take my insurance? How much is it going to cost? And a lot of different specific questions. Just tell them, I don't know. Just talk to him, send them to me, give them my number, give me their number, and I'm happy to do a free consultation on your behalf and tell them specifically how I can help them. So please send me your friends and family that need help, and I will get them put back into shape. And lastly, I love to do workshops like this. I'll come to your workplace, I'll come to your Bible study, I'll come to your quilting group or whatever it is, and share this message of health with them and give them a special opportunity to get chiropractic care and see if it's right for them. So thank you for watching this whole video. I think that you'll find this information incredibly helpful, and I'm looking forward to getting you to be in and living your best life.